Right, so I am in the Swiss city of Fribourg, as you can see. And these behind me are called hills. Coming from the lowlands, from the Netherlands, it's quite a thing to see some hills. But very grateful to be here in Fribourg. I'm here for a conference on public theology in secular cities or in secular countries, democracies. And very grateful to be here at the invitation of my colleague and friend Christine Schlesser, who is a professor here in Fribourg. And I woke up very early this morning, just after 3 a.m. and cycled with my bike to Bijlmer Arena. It's about 30 minutes from where I live in Baumbrugge. That's because there are no buses running that early in the morning. And then from Bijlmer, I caught a bus, the first bus, I think, of the day, to Schiphol. And I was there just 5:30 or so, or 5:45, somewhere around there. And then caught a flight from Amsterdam to Geneva. And the most incredible train ride along Lake Geneva, I think it was, through Lausanne. It is unbelievably beautiful here. So I'll put a few little clips of that into the video. But very grateful to be here. I see there is a massive Olympic swimming pool down there. It must get warm enough to swim, or that must be heated. But not too cold here today. Actually, the pilot said that it was warmer in Switzerland, certainly in Geneva, than it is in Amsterdam. But grateful to be here and looking forward to my presentation later this afternoon. But now I have to continue walking down the hill. Somewhere over there-ish, I think, is where I'm going for the start of the conference. So we'll catch up a little bit later. So it's been a week since I got back from Fribourg. In fact, a week ago today, I was in Fribourg in Switzerland, and it was an unbelievably wonderful time to be there with colleagues and with friends. And I'm so grateful to my colleague Christine Schlesser for inviting me to come and present at the conference, and it was a wonderful time. I was there with Christine, with Wolfgang Huber. Heinrich Bedford-Strom joined us online from Nigeria. My friend Torsten Mayreis. There were lots of wonderful people. Luke Bretherton, Ollie Wright from Oxford, and a whole host of people. Gunther Thomas, a friend from Bochum. So it was an absolutely wonderful time. A wonderful, wonderful conference as we reflected on cultural witness and the secular democracy. So what might it mean to witness into a sort of contemporary culture, particularly a secular democratic culture as Christians? How do we do that in ways that are both meaningful and responsible? And in my input, I just spoke a little bit about the fact that migration, particularly in Europe, is changing the ways in which we need to think about secular states, and that migrants who are coming in, like myself, from highly religious contexts into late secular or early post-secular democracies are obviously changing the ways in which faith is presented in public life. And that has, sort of ambiguous understandings and causes. Sometimes it can be constructive, it can help to give people meaning and understanding, and sometimes it can be problematic in a society. This week, of course, was a very disappointing week for many of us here in the Netherlands, with the election of Geert Wilders and his far right-wing party, highest number of seats in the national elections. And of course, that speaks to what I think is a reality in contemporary Europe, where many traditionally European cultures are finding themselves under pressure. It reminds me of the work of Francis Fukuyama, Identity and the Politics of Resentment, and this sort of notion where he speaks about the fact that one of the causes for this, whether it's in Italy, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in Germany, here in the Netherlands, one of the causes of this, of course, is that sense of eudaimonia, that people are feeling that they're under-recognized or misrecognized, and so are expressing their desire to maintain their identity or express their identity. And sometimes it's what Zygmunt Bauman would call a retrotopic identity, a retrotopia, an identity that never probably really existed, that they're trying to express. By the way, one of the books I'm reading at the moment is this wonderful book by my colleague Rick Peels. The book is called Ignorance, a Philosophical Study, and he has a wonderful section in there on this notion of white ignorance. That white ignorance is a sort of shared kind of community ignorance that benefits white persons in the world, in various places, here in Europe as well, and that it's maintained as a sort of form of ignorance amongst people. So things like privilege, what it means to live in the midst of whiteness, the privileges given to white persons and whiteness, and how that sort of ignorance, the maintenance of ignorance, deliberately or inadvertently, gives people a sense that their identity can be expressed in certain ways. I must say, certainly what worries me with the election of Geert Wilders is not only the challenges that it might have for formal policy in the Netherlands in relation to immigration and immigrants, but also what we saw in the United States and in other places where right-wing populists were elected, that somehow those citizens who had thinly veiled prejudices begin to feel emboldened that they can express those prejudices in public life. So I worry particularly for persons who are Muslim, who express their faith openly, and of course, persons whose social identity, ethnicity, might be considered not the norm for Western Europe, and what that may mean for them and for their children and their families, on buses, in shops, in their relationships with institutions like banks or hospitals or schools. So it certainly just shows that I'm here at the right time in the Netherlands. My work in relation to faith and public life, and to public life and public morality, I think matters a great deal. And it's been wonderful this week at work to connect with people. One or two other things that I'm reading at the moment. This is a book that was given to me by my colleague, Robert Vossler. I mentioned Robert's book last week. I'll just flash it up again. But this is a book by Gerrit Schutte. It's actually 2 volumes. It's called De Vrije Universiteit in Zuid-Afrika. And on the cover here, you can see here is Beyers Naudé, who received an honorary doctorate from the Free University Amsterdam, where I'm teaching now, in 1972. And at the Beyers Naudé 21st Beyers Naudé Center 21st anniversary celebrations, I actually spoke about this. And so that's been interesting. Then also in relation to Rick Peels's book, I've been reading this book by my colleague René van Woudenberg, The Epistemology of Reading and Interpretation. So René, like Rick, is a philosopher, and this has been an incredibly enlightening book. I've never really given that much thought to epistemology, a lot to hermeneutics, how we make sense of things, but what is it that we regard to be truthful and sensible? And this has to do, of course, with this notion of reading. What do we regard as true, and for what reasons do we regard it to be true? What has authority? What do we consider to have lesser authority? And certainly for someone who's thinking from and working in African contexts, often I think about the sort of minoritized or decentered identities. So black persons, the roles of women, Africans certainly, and how that features in sort of academic spaces. What is regarded as credible and true, and for what reasons are some things placed in the center and others at the margins? And as you'll know, part of the work that I've been doing with colleagues has been around decolonizing the theological archive and bringing, making space for those voices to be heard that traditionally haven't been heard. The other thing that happened this week was the Routledge Companion to John Wesley arrived. I wrote a chapter in this. This is edited by Clive Norris and Joe Cunningham. And really, I think this is a wonderful companion for anyone who's interested in Wesleyan and Methodist theologies. And because of my own work in theology and science, I was asked to write the chapter on theology and science, John Wesley and his relationship to theology and science. And certainly I've been enjoying the other chapters in the book. Len O'Brien, I loved his chapter. He's one of the best historians that I know. But incredible chapters in this book. I mean, really just so well worth reading. And, you know, Methodists and Wesleyans from all over the world who've been involved in that. And then lastly, just again, today actually is Robert's birthday. Happy birthday, Robert Vosloo, my colleague from Stellenbosch University. I've been reading Robert's book. Actually, my copy is lying behind me on my bedside table there. 'n Lewe hier, gedagtes oor tyd en ander gawes, a life here, thoughts about time and other gifts or other graces. And I've been reading sort of one of these every night. And for those of you who listen into my little talk on Radio Cape Pulpit every Thursday morning, you know that I've been dealing with issues related to time, the sort of chronophage, and how particularly we deal with this issue that sometimes time is not regarded as our friend, but also that sometimes the limitations, the finitude of our lives give us a sense of how precious it is and what we must do with it. So I think I'm beginning to find my way well here in the Netherlands. I've been cycling on my e-bike, Igor, the e-bike, my giant, into work. I've got lost a couple of times. There's some roads that are flooded, and every time that a road gets flooded and I rely on Google Maps to take me around another road, I end up adding about 5 extra kilometers. So instead of doing sort of 40 kilometers to work and back, I'm doing 45. And most of that in the dark. I leave when it's dark and come home when it's dark, because it is winter here. But finding my way here in the Netherlands amongst wonderful people. I've been working on my own book, the manuscript of my own book, which should be forthcoming. That's with Lexington Books, Roman and Littlefield. That should be coming out next year. And it's the book on identity and African relational ontology. I've also been working on an edited volume that I'm doing with my colleague Rudolf von Sinner from Brazil, about public theologies in South Africa and Brazil, and we have all of that in, and so now it's just the language editing and finalization of it so it can go out to peer review. And preparing for teaching, and I've had lots of meetings, meeting new colleagues, and I have some exciting things coming up. I'll be meeting with the leadership of the PKN, the Protestant Kerk in Nederland, around public theology. I met Rachel Koopman, who is heading that project for the PKN in Switzerland, and so we'll be doing some work with her. But it's been a wonderful week, and very grateful to be here. I celebrated our son Liam's 17th birthday. We watched a movie together over Zoom, which was wonderful. And last night I actually watched TV with Megan and with Liam over Zoom. So it's wonderful just to have these tiny little things that technology makes possible. But thanks for your interest and your thoughts and prayers. I'll put links to the books that I shared here in the show notes, certainly on YouTube, but also on Facebook if you're watching there. And you can find access to these books. And I think, Rick Peels's book certainly has been a really incredible and insightful read for me in the last week or so. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. And I hope the video worked out okay. I see the sun has gone behind the clouds again, so I'm not sure what the focus will be like and what the consistency of the light will be. But as you know, I'm not a massive professional when it comes to filming these videos. In fact, what I'll do is take a picture of my little setup here so that you can see it. There's my Fuji X100 perched on the windowsill, and it records from there. This, by the way, this X100 T is an amazing camera. It's a little bit older now, but it has such a great lens, and I find it just so great for street photography and everyday snaps, and it's incredible with video. So a really great little camera to use. But thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear from you at Digital Dion on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram, and also on Threads, by the way. I'm also Digital Dion there, or on my website, dionfoster.com, or Dion A. Foster on Facebook. My regular profile, Dion Foster, is full. It can only take 5,000 friends. So Dion A. Foster is the public page. I'd love to see you there, or on YouTube, Dion Foster. So thanks for watching.